Listen carefully. Slow down your thoughts. Do not rush this moment. Right now, something spiritual is happening. This is not entertainment. This is not coincidence. This is not just another video. If you are here, heaven scheduled this moment. You didn't just find this message. You were led to it. Something in your spirit felt the urgency. Something in your heart sensed, I need to hear this. And that is because you are standing at a turning point. Archangel Michael is speaking because you have reached the edge of something powerful and dangerous to the enemy. You have endured more than people know. You have held on longer than you thought you could. And yet, you are still standing. Before we go further, if you believe God brought you here, like this video right now, it is a simple act of agreement. And it helps this message reach others who are on the brink of giving up. Stay with me. Do not skip. This message unfolds layer by layer, just like your breakthrough. Have you noticed how things intensified lately? The waiting feels heavier. The resistance feels stronger. The confusion feels louder. You may have asked yourself, why now? Why again? Why does it feel harder when I've already endured so much? Archangel Michael says this clearly. Pressure increases right before permission is granted. The enemy does not waste energy on defeated people. The enemy does not fight those who are about to fail. The attack intensified because your breakthrough got closer. You were not imagining it. You were not becoming weak. You were not doing something wrong. You were approaching the door. And when heaven prepares to open a door, hell tries to create exhaustion so you walk away first. But look at this truth. You are still here, still listening, still searching for God. That alone proves the pressure did not defeat you. This is where many misunderstand. The final test is not about how much you can do. It is not about how strong you appear. It is not about proving anything to God. God already knows your heart. The final test is about trust without evidence. Can you trust God when nothing changes yet? Prayers feel unanswered. Doors remain closed. People misunderstand you. Archangel Michael says, many lose their miracle not because they failed, but because they quit too close to completion. This test asks, will you still believe without reassurance? Will you still obey without applause? Will you still stand when no one is cheering? You passed tests of pain. You passed tests of loss. Now comes the test of patience. And patience is not passive, it is powerful. Heaven is watching how you wait. This part hurts, but it heals. Some people disappeared without explanation. Some relationships changed suddenly. Some support faded when you needed it most. You wondered, did I do something wrong? Why am I so alone? Archangel Michael answers, what left you could not survive where God is taking you. Not everyone is assigned for elevation seasons. Some are only assigned for survival seasons. God removed voices that would doubt your calling, question your obedience, delay your growth. You were isolated not to punish you, but to prepare you. Silence sharpened your discernment. Loneliness strengthened your dependence on God. What felt like abandonment was actually alignment. There was a night you will never forget. No one else knows the exact moment. No one saw it happen. No one heard the words you whispered. But heaven did. It was the night your strength finally gave out. Not because you were weak, but because you had been strong for too long. You had held it together in front of everyone. You smiled when people asked how you were doing. You said, I'm fine, even when you were. You carried responsibilities that no one offered to help with. You stayed quiet when you wanted to scream. And then, something inside you reached its limit. You remember how heavy your chest felt, how your thoughts wouldn't slow down, how the silence felt louder than noise. That was the night you sat alone. Maybe on your bed, maybe on the floor, maybe in your car. And you finally said what you had been holding back. God, I'm tired. Not dramatic. Not loud. Just honest. You weren't threatening to walk away. You weren't trying to bargain with God. You were simply empty. You wondered how much longer you could keep believing, when nothing around you seemed to change. You questioned whether your prayers were even reaching heaven. You asked yourself if you had misunderstood God's voice. You thought maybe this promise wasn't meant for me. That night, doubt didn't come as rebellion. It came as exhaustion. And here is what you need to understand. God was not offended by that moment. Archangel Michael says, "Heaven is not shaken by honest weariness." That night did not disqualify you. It did not disappoint God. It did not cancel your calling. It revealed your humanity. You had reached the point where effort could no longer carry you. Only surrender could. You may have cried. You may have sat in silence. You may have stared at the ceiling, unable to pray. And maybe you said words you never thought you would say. I don't know if I can keep doing this. That sentence was not failure. It was vulnerability. And vulnerability is where divine strength enters. Because here is the part you didn't see. Heaven leaned in closer that night. Archangel Michael stood watch when your defenses were down. God listened without judgment. Angels recorded your tears. Scripture says God keeps count of every tear. Not to remind you of pain, but to mark moments of faith under pressure. You thought you were at your breaking point, but spiritually you were at your turning point. That night became a line in the sand. The enemy expected you to quit then, to walk away quietly, to let go of faith out of fatigue. But you didn't. Even in your weakness, you stayed. You didn't make a dramatic declaration of faith. You didn't suddenly feel strong again. You simply woke up the next day. And that was enough. Archangel Michael says, "Endurance is not loud, it is loyal." You stayed loyal to God even when you were confused. You stayed loyal to faith even when hope felt thin. You stayed loyal to prayer even if all you could say was help. That night changed things in the unseen realm. Because the enemy lost his window. He expected you to collapse under pressure. But instead, you leaned into God without realizing it. That moment proved something powerful. Your faith was not based on comfort. Your obedience was not dependent on ease. Your trust did not require immediate results. And that is rare. Many people praise God when blessings are visible. Few remain when blessings are delayed. You did. You may not feel victorious now. You may not feel strong yet. But heaven marked you that night. Archangel Michael says, "When you did not quit, your reward was secured." That does not mean life suddenly becomes easy. It means your breakthrough became inevitable. The night you almost quit was the night God saw that you could be trusted with what is coming. Because if you stayed in the dark, you will stand in the light. If you endured without applause, you will be trusted with influence. If you obeyed without answers, you will recognize divine timing. That night was not wasted. It was sacred. And one day soon, you will look back and realize, if you had quit then, you would have missed everything. But you didn't. You're still here. Still listening. Still breathing. Still believing, maybe quietly, maybe weakly, but truly. And that is why this message found you now. Because heaven wants you to know. You are not barely holding on. You are standing at the edge of fulfillment. There is a reason this message feels urgent to you. Not rushed, not chaotic, but pressing. Urgency from heaven does not come with panic. It comes with clarity. If you felt a pull to stay, if something in you said, "Don't skip this," that was not curiosity. That was discernment awakening. Archangel Michael says, when timing matters, heaven speaks louder. God does not interrupt your life randomly. He interrupts when alignment is near. This message was not sent to scare you. It was sent to position you. There is a difference. Via pushes. God invites. And what you are feeling right now is an invitation to awareness. You are standing in a narrow window of preparation. Not because something bad is about to happen, but because something significant is about to open. Throughout Scripture, moments of urgency always appeared right before movement. Before Noah built, there was warning. Before Egypt changed, there was instruction. Before the Red Sea parted, there was urgency to move. Urgency from God is not about punishment. It is about participation. He does not want you distracted. When alignment requires attention. Archangel Michael says, delay is not rebellion, but it can become disconnection. God respects your free will. He will not force obedience. But there are moments when obedience carries timing. This is one of those moments. You have been in a season where things felt suspended. Waiting without clarity. Praying without answers. Moving forward slowly. That season is ending. And when seasons shift, awareness matters. If you remain spiritually asleep when doors begin to open, you may walk past what you prayed for. That is why this message carries weight. Heaven is not shouting. Heaven is calling your attention. This is not about missing blessings forever. It is about recognizing divine cues now. Archangel Michael says, what is released requires recognition. Your miracle does not chase you. It responds to readiness. God has been refining your discernment for this reason. That is why you began noticing patterns. Why certain conversations stood out. Why certain opportunities felt wrong, even when they looked good. You are being trained to hear subtle instruction. Urgency exists because distraction is costly. Not eternally, but temporarily. You have come too far to arrive late to your own breakthrough. This is not the time to numb yourself spiritually. Disengage from prayer. Grow careless with obedience. Dismiss gentle nudges. This is a time of attentiveness. God is not asking you to do more. He is asking you to listen deeper. Archangel Michael says, alignment happens quietly, but it requires agreement. This is why skipping matters, not because God is angry, but because heaven is speaking in sequence. Each instruction builds upon the last. When one is ignored, clarity blurs. That is why this message found you before things change. So you are not confused when they do. God is preparing you mentally, emotionally, spiritually. He is teaching you to recognize His movement without needing loud signs. This is maturity. Urgency is the final polish before release. You are not being rushed. You are being readied. And here is the reassurance you need. You have not missed anything. You are not behind. You are exactly where you need to be to receive what is coming next. But timing matters now. Responding with awareness matters now. Remaining spiritually present matters now. Because when doors open, they do not announce themselves loudly. They open quietly for those who are watching. Archangel Michael says, Those who are alert will enter first. This is not about competition. It is about confirmation. Heaven wants you steady, not startled. Prepared, not surprised. That is why you are drawn here. And if this section speaks to you, pause for a moment. Take a breath. And say quietly, God, I'm listening. That simple agreement matters more than you realize. There is something you must understand clearly, because misunderstanding this has caused many people unnecessary pain. Your miracle does not begin the day you see it. It begins the moment God releases it. And for you, that release has already happened. You may not feel it yet, you may not see evidence yet, nothing around you may look different. But spiritually, the shift has already occurred. This is the part where faith becomes quiet. Not excited, not dramatic, just steady. Archangel Michael says, what is in motion does not announce itself. God does not always inform us when he moves. Sometimes he moves first, and understanding follows later. That is why this season has felt strange. You are standing between release and revelation. Between what heaven has already approved and what earth has not yet displayed. This in-between space can feel uncomfortable. Because the old season no longer fits, but the new one has not fully appeared. You may feel restless without knowing why, detached from things that once mattered, uninterested in arguments you used to engage in. This is not confusion, this is transition. When a seed is planted, nothing changes on the surface at first, but underground, everything begins to shift. Roots spread, structure forms, strength develops. If the seed could speak, it might say, nothing is happening. But everything is happening. Your miracle is in its root phase. God is building it beneath the surface, so it can stand above the surface. Archangel Michael says, what God builds quietly lasts publicly. This is why delays have been necessary. Not because God was slow, but because what you are receiving requires stability. You are not being given something fragile, you are being entrusted with something weighty. And weight requires preparation. God is aligning more than circumstances, he is aligning you. Your mindset, your emotional capacity, your discernment, your boundaries. Because blessings without preparation become burdens. God refuses to bless you in a way that would break you later. So he slowed the process to strengthen the foundation. Think about what you prayed for. Not just the surface request, but the deeper desire. You asked for peace, not just provision. You asked for stability, not just success. You asked for alignment, not just opportunity. God heard all of it. And he answered wisely. That is why what is coming will feel different from what you imagined. Not smaller, but wiser. Not louder, but safer. Not rushed, but rooted. Archangel Michael says, heaven does not rush what must remain. You may have wondered why certain opportunities didn't work out. They looked right, they sounded promising, they arrived quickly. But they didn't have peace. That was not rejection, that was protection. God was protecting the miracle already in motion. Because distractions can delay destiny. Even good things can interfere with God things. So God closed doors you didn't understand to keep you available for the one that matters. And now something important is happening internally. Your expectations are being purified. You are learning to trust God's timing without needing constant reassurance. You are becoming spiritually self-governed. That is maturity. You are no longer chasing signs, you are learning to recognize alignment. This is why heaven trusts you with what is coming. Archangel Michael says, when faith no longer demands proof, fulfillment draws near. Your miracle is not racing toward you. It is being carried with precision. Handled with care, shielded from interference, timed with intention. There are people involved you haven't met yet, conversations that haven't happened yet, decisions that must align across multiple lives. God is orchestrating more than you can see. What feels like waiting is actually coordination. You are not standing still. You are being positioned. And positioning often looks like inactivity to the human eye. But spiritually, it is strategic. This is why comparison has become uncomfortable. You can no longer measure your journey against someone else's timeline. Your path is customized. Your miracle is specific. God is not copying someone else's blessing and handing it to you. He is crafting something that fits your calling. That takes time, but it also takes care. Archangel Michael says, precision requires patience. You are not waiting because you are unworthy. You are waiting because what is coming is valuable. Cheap things arrive quickly, precious things are handled carefully. And what you are carrying, what God is entrusting to you, is not cheap. This is why you must guard your heart right now. Do not let impatience speak louder than wisdom. Do not let frustration rewrite what God has promised. Do not let temporary silence convince you of permanent absence. God is closer now than he was before, even if it feels quieter. Especially if it feels quieter. Silence is not absence. Silence is often focus. Heaven is focused on your outcome. Archangel Michael says, when God grows quiet, he is often finishing something. You do not need to force anything. You do not need to manipulate outcomes. You do not need to chase confirmation. Your assignment in this phase is simple but powerful. Remain aligned. Stay obedient in small things. Stay attentive to inner nudges. Stay grounded in prayer, even short ones. Consistency matters more than intensity right now. This is not a season for striving. It is a season for steadiness. The miracle already knows where you are. And when the moment is right, it will not struggle to find you. It will arrive naturally, clearly, with peace. You will not have to convince yourself it is from God. You will know. Because what comes from God does not bring confusion. It brings clarity. It brings confirmation. It brings rest even while stretching you. Archangel Michael says, what is divinely timed arrives without force. Soon, something will shift externally to match what has already shifted internally. And when it does, you will understand why waiting mattered. Why delay was mercy, why preparation was protection. And you will say, now I see. Until then, rest in this truth. Your miracle is not stuck. It is not delayed by mistake. It is not dependent on human approval. It is already moving. Quietly, precisely, inevitably. There are things God does for you that you will never fully see. Not because he wants to hide them, but because seeing them would have overwhelmed you. Protection often happens quietly, without announcements, without explanation. And that is why many people misunderstand delay. They think delay means denial. They think closed doors mean rejection. They think silence means absence. But often, silence means shielding. Archangel Michael says, some battles are won without your awareness. You are protected from things you prayed against, and from things you didn't even know to pray about. There were paths that looked promising, but carried consequences you couldn't see yet. There were opportunities that arrived quickly, but would have cost you peace later. There were people who seemed helpful, but would have drained you over time. God saw the full picture. You only saw the invitation. That is why certain things didn't work out. Even when you tried hard. Even when you did everything right. It wasn't because you failed. It was because God intervened. You may remember moments when something almost happened. An almost relationship. An almost job. An almost decision. An almost move. At the time, it felt disappointing. confusing, even painful. But now, looking back, you can sense something. You were spared. Archangel Michael says, what misses you was not meant to harm you, it was meant to bypass you. God does not only protect you from danger. He protects you from distraction. Some things were not evil. They were just off timing. And timing matters. A good thing at the wrong time can become a heavy thing. So God stepped in. He slowed you down. He created obstacles. He allowed delays, not to frustrate you, but to keep you aligned. You may not realize how close you came to settling for something less than what God prepared. Close enough to almost say yes. Close enough to compromise. Close enough to rationalize. But something stopped you. That was not intuition alone. That was divine protection. Archangel Michael has been guarding your discernment. That uneasy feeling you couldn't explain. That lack of peace that wouldn't go away. That hesitation that didn't make logical sense. Those were warnings, not from fear, but from wisdom. Heaven does not always block danger with walls. Sometimes it blocks danger with discomfort. If God had explained everything at the time, you might have argued. You might have tried to reason with him. You might have insisted you could handle it. So he protected you quietly, by closing doors without debate, by removing people without discussion, by redirecting you without full explanation. Archangel Michael says, protection often feels like inconvenience. You were also protected from becoming someone you would later resent. Some paths would have hardened your heart. Some environments would have changed your character. Some pressures would have pulled you away from who you truly are. God cares about who you are becoming, more than what you are achieving. So he guarded your integrity. He preserved your sensitivity. He protected your compassion. He kept your spirit from becoming cynical. You didn't lose opportunities. You avoided transformation in the wrong direction. And there is another layer to this protection. You were protected from premature exposure. Some blessings draw attention. Some doors bring visibility. Some assignments come with scrutiny. If God had released those too early, you would have been targeted without preparation. So he hid you. He allowed you to grow quietly, to mature without pressure, to strengthen without spotlight. Archangel Michael says, what is hidden is not forgotten, it is being fortified. You were also protected from spiritual burnout. Had everything happened when you wanted it to, you would have carried success without rest, responsibility without grounding, progress without peace. God slowed the pace, so your soul could keep up with your destiny. He did not want you arriving exhausted to something meant to bring joy. So he taught you to rest, to pause, to breathe, even when you resisted it. Some of your delays were actually recovery periods. And then there are the dangers you never knew existed. Conversations that could have ruined your reputation. Agreements that could have entangled you legally. Environments that would have exposed you to harm. You were redirected just in time. A late arrival. A cancelled plan. A sudden change of mind. Those were not coincidences. Those were interventions. Archangel Michael says, timing adjustments save lives. God did not only protect your future, he protected your present. He shielded your mind from information you weren't ready to process yet. He shielded your heart from betrayals that would have crushed you prematurely. He shielded your spirit from burdens you were not meant to carry. Some truths were delayed because you needed strength first. Some revelations were postponed because you needed healing before understanding. This is why you must trust God's pace. He sees the whole path, not just the next step. And here is something important to understand. Protection does not mean the absence of struggle. It means the presence of limits. The enemy was allowed to try, but not allowed to succeed. You were tested, but not destroyed. You were pressured, but not crushed. That is protection. Archangel Michael says, boundaries were placed around your life. You may not feel invincible, but you are covered. Even now, even as things begin to shift, protection does not end when blessings begin. In many ways, it increases. Because what God gives you next will be worth guarding. That is why discernment will become sharper. Why you will feel less tolerant of chaos. Why you will value peace more than approval. You are learning to recognize safety, not excitement, as confirmation. And that is wisdom. One day you will look back and see clearly. If God had not protected you then, you would not be ready now. And if He had not delayed you there, you would not be aligned here. So if you ever feel tempted to regret what didn't happen, remember this. What didn't happen was mercy. What didn't work out was guidance. What left your life was removed with intention. Archangel Michael says, protection is love in action. You were never abandoned. You were guarded. Your next season will not feel like the last one. That is the first thing you need to understand. You have grown so accustomed to pressure, resistance, and uncertainty that peace may feel unfamiliar at first. But unfamiliar does not mean wrong. It means new. God is not bringing you into another cycle of survival. He is leading you into a season of stability. Not perfection, not the absence of challenges, but a deep, steady sense of alignment. This next season will feel quieter on the inside. Your thoughts will slow down, your reactions will soften, your spirit will no longer feel constantly on guard. That doesn't mean you are less alert, it means you are more secure. Archangel Michael says, peace is not weakness, it is authority without noise. You will notice that you no longer feel the need to explain yourself. You will stop rehearsing conversations in your head, stop defending decisions to people who don't understand your path, stop chasing clarity from those who were never meant to give it. Not because you became indifferent, but because you became rooted. Rooted people don't panic when the wind blows, they trust what is beneath them. This next season will also feel slower in some ways. Not delayed, but deliberate. You will think before you act, discern before you decide, listen before you move. Where once you rushed to keep up, now you will wait to confirm alignment. This is wisdom, not fear. Archangel Michael says, speed without clarity leads to exhaustion. Clarity creates momentum. Your priorities will change. What once excited you may no longer interest you. What once drained you will no longer be tolerated. What once felt necessary may now feel heavy. You will protect your time, you will guard your energy, you will choose peace over performance. This is not laziness, it is stewardship. God is teaching you how to carry blessing without losing yourself. Your next season will also bring a deeper sense of identity. You will no longer define yourself by what you are waiting for. You will no longer see yourself as almost there. You will no longer measure your worth by progress alone. You will stand fully present, secure in who you are now. Archangel Michael says, when identity settles, anxiety fades. You are stepping into a season where you act from knowing, not from proving. You will no longer feel the need to be seen, you will be seen naturally. You will no longer feel pressure to be chosen, you will be recognized. Because when God positions you, effort becomes unnecessary. Another shift you will notice. Your emotional responses will change. Things that once triggered you will no longer have the same effect. Not because you became numb, but because you healed. You will observe instead of absorb, discern instead of react, respond instead of retreat. This emotional maturity is a sign that you are ready for what comes next. God does not give weighty assignments to unstable foundations. You are becoming stable. Your next season will also introduce new connections. Not many, but meaningful. People who speak the same language of growth, people who respect your boundaries, people who do not compete with your calling. These connections will feel calm, natural, unforced. You will not need to convince them of your value, they will recognize it. Archangel Michael says, aligned people do not drain, they reinforce. You may also notice that some old connections fade completely. Not dramatically, not painfully, just quietly. This is not loss. It is completion. God does not tear chapters out of your life. He closes them gently when the story moves forward. You are not being pulled backward. You are being released forward. Your next season will also feel more purposeful. You will wake up with clarity, not about everything, but about the next right step. Confusion will no longer dominate your mornings. Anxiety will no longer define your nights. You will sense direction even when details are missing. This is trust maturing. You no longer need to see the entire map to take the next step. Archangel Michael says, certainty is replaced by confidence. You will also experience a shift in how you pray. Your prayers will become quieter, more intentional, less desperate. Not because you stopped believing, but because you started trusting. You will pray from alignment, not anxiety, from relationship, not fear. You will speak to God as someone who knows He is listening, because you've seen Him carry you before. Another change you may not expect. Joy will return in small ways. Not dramatic happiness, not constant excitement, but steady joy. You will laugh without forcing it, enjoy moments without guilt, rest without feeling lazy. Joy will feel safe again. This is healing. Your next season will not erase your past, but it will redeem it. What hurt you will teach you, what broke you will strengthen you, what delayed you will guide you. You will carry wisdom instead of wounds. And you will help others, not from theory but from experience. Archangel Michael says, those who heal quietly lead powerfully. You will also notice that your relationship with God deepens. Not louder, not more complicated. Just closer. You will recognize His guidance in subtle ways. You will sense His correction without fear. You will feel His presence without needing proof. This intimacy is the foundation of everything else. Because what God gives you next will require partnership, not pressure. Your next season will not demand that you strive. It will ask that you steward. You will be trusted with more, not because you are perfect, but because you are grounded. And finally, understand this. Your next season will not arrive with noise. It will arrive with peace. You will not have to convince yourself it is right. You will not have to ignore red flags. You will not have to override your spirit. You will know. Because what is from God settles you. Archangel Michael says, peace is the confirmation. So if your life begins to feel calmer, don't sabotage it. If things begin to feel lighter, don't question it. If you feel yourself breathing easier, don't rush ahead. You are not losing momentum. You are entering alignment. This is not the end of your journey. It is the beginning of a healthier one. And you are ready.